Today I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Luis Palomino, the Baboon, current bare-knuckle boxing super welterweight world champion for BKFC, or also known as Bare-Knuckle Fighting Championship. And Luis has also won multiple MMA world titles as well, including the Extreme Fighting Championship featherweight world title, the Championship Fighting Alliance featherweight world title as well. He's also won March and September Fight of the Month in 2015 for 2 fights with Justin Gaethje as well. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and has fought a long list of legends of the game. And there's so many, I've actually got a list here. But we've got guys like Jim Elias, Isaac Valley Flag, Eric Reynolds, Nick Gonzalez, obviously Jorge Masvidal, Pat Curran, Charles Bennett. And it goes on. And Luis has fought for some of the greatest MMA organizations on the planet, including Bellator, World Series of Fighting, PFL, CFA, Absolute Fighting Championships, One Championship, and quite a few others. I've got a list of those too. So safe to say he's been around a bit, absolute legend of the game. And we're going to be talking today about his life and his career, his MMA fighting career, obviously, which encompasses 43 fights as well. And we're going to be talking about his transition to bare knuckle boxing, the fastest growing sport in the world. I would say the purest fighting sport in the world as well. And we're going to be talking about quite a few other things. So, Champ, I'm super grateful for you making the time to talk with me. Big thank you for that. It's appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, bro.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So obviously we've got a lot of super cool stuff to talk about, some really cool things. Before we get into MMA, before we get into bare knuckle fighting and all the cool stuff you're doing, I want to go back in time real quick to your youth, to your early years, because one of the things I want to touch on is I know you were involved in street fighting. You were involved in, I saw an interview you did fairly recently where you said every knuckle tells a story. So I want to touch on your upbringing a little bit, some of the challenges you overcame, in your younger years before you got into MMA. And I want to touch a little bit on how you got started with MMA, if that's all right. So let's start there.
Well, I'd say everything starts back in when I was about 10 years old, when I first came to America from Peru, and I landed in California. And in California, I lived in San Bernardino, city of Chino, where there was a boxing gym called Chino Boxing. And my father back then was taking my older brother, Pedro, to the boxing gym. And, I was a little scrawny, skinny kid. My brother Pedro was like, even when he was 14 years old, he looked like a damn bodybuilder for some reason, right? He got my mom's side of the genes. I got my dad's side of the genes, right? So I didn't have no muscle development until like I was 20-something, So I asked if I could tag along. And so I did. My brother didn't quite like it, and he was out within a week or two. And I ended up boxing for 3 years. So that was the beginning of combat sports for me. Time passed. My father went to prison. I came to Florida, and being a very infested waters of gang activity in Florida at the time that I came here, and I couldn't find a boxing gym anywhere. It was too far away. It would take me like 3 buses to get there, more than an hour. My mom was not having it with all the gang activity going on, and I ended up joining capoeira, Brazilian martial arts, and this is how I learned how to speak fluent Portuguese, thanks to capoeira. And years after, I became a professor in capoeira. I was very good at it. And that's where the name Baboon came from. The Baboon was part of the logo, and I was named after the logo. And that's how I ran with that name, right? Years later passed, and I seen old friends of mine that had moved out of Miami that were doing jiu-jitsu for like the last 5 years, and they were fighting. And I was like, oh man, I used to fight so much in the street that I don't want to keep doing that. I don't want to keep, hurting my mom like that, And when I saw them doing it and they're actually getting paid for it, they made it possible for me. Those were the Asunsan brothers, Junior Asunsan and Rafael Asunsan, who's still in the UFC today. And they kind of gave me the motivation and the belief that I can do it too by watching them do it. And I began, the interest in MMA. At that time, capoeira was very big in Miami. It was like a very big thing, But the competition was dying out because capoeira in Brazil, people die. Do this circle and put people over here. You think about it, capoeira, music and acrobatics and it's dance. No, it's a martial art hitting inside that acrobatics and the dance, right? And over here, we would go to different teams, different, like a baptism where you celebrate, and it was literally like a group against group against group. Like everybody was fighting. So then cases started to come out, people pointing fingers and charges. So capoeira started to die out. As it was dying out, I had asked my last capoeira mestre, which was Cesar Canero. I asked him, I want to do MMA. And he told me, well, you have to do jiu-jitsu if you want to do MMA. And that was a very humbling experience. He took me to a friend of his that was George Pereira, and I started training jiu-jitsu. And within, I say 8 months, I earned my blue belt. And within 8 months, I did my first pro fight with no amateur fights, fighting at 170 pounds, weighing about a 168, 167, having no idea there was such a thing as a weight cut. I did my first 10 pro fights without sparring partners, without a team, just mitt work and capoeira. And we are here now.
Amazing. Amazing. It's amazing to get that insight that you don't always get, from the outside looking in, because I also think it's inspiring for young fighters. I mean, obviously now you're the champ, you're the multiple time champ, but obviously it didn't start that way. So it's really good to touch on that. And that's the reason for that. Obviously with your MMA career, I mean, wow. I mean, I covered some of the highlights earlier, multiple world titles, fought some of the best in the world, fought all over different promotions, but narrowing that down, I mean, what moment of your MMA career are you personally most proud of? And also, what is the reason why that one? Because obviously, as I said, I mean, there's so much to talk about. We couldn't talk about it all today. But for you personally, I mean, what are you most proud of in your MMA career? What moment sort of stands out for you?
I would say it's more like a sequence of moments, which was in the time where I was fighting in CFA, as you mentioned, and for some reason, like nobody wanted to fight me. Right? Like we couldn't get a local guy to fight Baboon, right? So they were like literally bringing in guys that just came out of UFC or WEC from the big shows to fight me. So what I did was I started calling everybody out and I went belt hunting. Like I literally went belt hunting. I think I did like 2 belt fights, like back to back within a small window. Like I did like 4 fights in a window of like less than 2 months. I was just hunting them. I was challenging everybody. And I would say that would be my most memorable time. It was around 2010, 2012, that I was just challenging everybody in every organization, taking the belts. I ended up with four of those. So I will be the biggest. Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's a good insight. I mean, it's not one moment. And and also for our viewers and our listeners, anyone who doesn't know, obviously you challenged for several other belts. So even though you won 3, I know you made it to semifinals, quarterfinals. There was World Series of Fighting challenges. There was a lot of stuff going on. Your career has always been exciting, champ. What can I say? I mean, win, lose, or draw, or anything is, there's fireworks, So obviously moving on past that. 3 titles in MMA, obviously not counting Bareknuckle yet. We'll get to that in a minute. Is there one that you're more proud of than any others, or are they all equal in your
from MMA?
Yeah, from MMA, yeah.
They all hold a special place in my heart. It's from the very first one in USFL all the way in Connecticut to the ones I earned here in Miami to the one in Michigan. It's like they all hold that special place. I would say, if anything, the G-Force belt, and that was G-Force was a show that Glenn Bryce, the 3-point shooter from the Miami Heat, he had his own organization, and he was doing a big time promoting me, and like I got a big opportunity. I can't put nobody down. CFA did it for me too, but G-Force was the show that I fought Masvidal in. I fought George Masvidal in after earning the title. No, was it after or before? I earned the title at 155 after I fought George Masvidal. So maybe because of the name that he has today and the memories that it brings to me, it was very memorable to me. And this, I'll show you which one I'm talking about. There you go. This is that baby from back then. There you go.
Oh, incredible.
Yes, sir. So definitely has some good memories.
Good memories, amazing. And I know it's a funny question because world titles, winning anything like that is incredible. But because you've won obviously so many, I get the chance to ask which one. So that's amazing. So thank you, champ, and thank you for showing it as well. Now, obviously, again, just MMA. Before we get to Bareknuckle, which we'll do next. Toughest fights. I mean, I'm sure you get asked this a lot, about which fight was the most challenging and all this type of thing. But, was there one that stands out as a fight where, you really had to dig deep and you really thought, God, I'm in for it tonight? Or maybe there's more than one. I don't know. I mean, you had a lot of tough fights, obviously, but is there one that sort of stands out in your mind?
There's definitely the one that the whole world talks about, and it'll pop out in Facebook sometimes. It'll be like the biggest fight out of the UFC that you ever seen, and that's definitely Gaethje, man. Just a Gaethje. I fought this guy, and I completely underestimated him. As his conditioning was just out of control. This guy, he trains in high elevation. I fought him in his hometown, and I wasn't conditioned the way I should have been conditioned. So, I did underestimate that. And, he ended up, if you look at the clip, at the very first fight, we throw a low kick together. The thing is that his shin lands in my ankle. And I have pictures of a swollen ankle about that big. I was fighting on one leg, man. I couldn't check kicks. I couldn't put my weight on the back leg to put power in my punches. So he definitely got the best of me. And it was still, fight of the year, fight of the month. It's the biggest fight of my life, right? And then I fought him a second time because I lost the fight. I landed in Miami. And as I'm landing in Miami, I'm getting a call from Ray Seffel, which is a promoter, right? And Ray Seffel doubled my contract. So it's like, I'm doubling your contract. This fight is bigger than you think it is, and I know that you lost, but whatever, but we want to give you a rematch. And it was right away. Within a few months, I went back to the rematch, and the rematch meant there's no excuses. He didn't even look where he was going. I got the best of him for most half. I dropped him. I think I exposed the fact that the body is where you attack Gaethje because he can take hits forever, man. And I think that Dustin Poirier, trainers like pointed that out to him because he was probably like one of the only ones to attack the body the way he did, and ended up winning and beating him. But definitely that fight against Gaethje, man. The second fight, he goes like this. I repeat the same combo over and over again. I'm in the pocket. I'm overconfident as always. The leg kick wasn't a problem anymore, right? Because I was ready, and I didn't have the bad ankle anymore. And he just went like this, throws an overhand, lands it on top, and that type of hit up here. It's not a knockout hit like where I saw stars and I saw black and I was out. No, it's just in equilibrium. He dropped my equilibrium. I dropped. And as I'm getting up, they're already separating the fight. So I think it was kind of unjust, but then again, it's his hometown. He never let it, he never, you can't let that happen because, they called the fight. I wasn't out, but he definitely got the best of me that night. And, that was the second time that he beat me, and I entered three fights in one night tournament just to fight him again. And that's why he respects me so much. That's why he mentioned me so much in most of his first interviews in UFC. And when they kept asking him, who's the hardest fighter, who's the hardest hitter you've ever faced, he would always mention Palomino. And, in mutual respect to him, he could have been a champ. That's why I put my money on him, and it didn't go his way. But, this is that game. This is that type of game, Sometimes it's just not your night.
Incredible. And just as a small sort of offshoot to that, champ, just real quick before we, get to the bare knuckle, was he the hardest hitter that you faced, or was that someone else? Because I'm going to throw that in there because I wasn't going to, but I'm going to throw that in there because and I know, and this can include the bare knuckle as well, by the way, if you want to, because across all these guys that you fought, and obviously all over the world, different US states, there's bound to be somebody, because you're obviously a very heavy hitter yourself, right? Which is part of what makes me think of it, I mean, you throw bombs, there's always fireworks, and I know your talent base is more than than just that, but obviously that's a big part of your game, a very aggressive style. But then I'm just sort of curious to sort of flip that on its head of the hardest shots that you felt. So let's talk about that for a minute. Who was that? Was that Gaethje, or was that somebody else?
Man, I can't say that Gaethje was the hardest hitter, but in a sense he is, because look, you know how people say that in a fight, there's the hammer and the nail. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. For most of my career, I was the hammer. So I faced some people that had some serious power on them, right? But they didn't get the best of me. They didn't get to clip me. They didn't get to, let me see. I've been knocked down before, but nothing memorable where I can actually remember a name to tell you. So if if anybody can take that, it has to be Gagey, because he was the one that did the most damage that anybody has done to me. So I would say Gagey, just because of the damage, you know.
Fair enough, fair enough. I mean, I just, you just made me think of it then when you were saying, because like I say, you're heavy into yourself, but it's interesting on the reverse. Justin, if you're watching this, big respect for two incredible fights and obviously the rest of his career as well, world class. So, all right, let's get into the bare knuckle then, because I've been sort of itching to get to this, but, obviously you had to cover the MMA because your career has just been legendary. So, okay, bare knuckle, bare knuckle. So, first things first, I mean, what actually inspired you to make that transition? Obviously, instead of continuing with MMA, I mean, I know there was talk of injuries and there was talk of different things that were flying around. But from your own perspective, what was what sort of inspired that decision to switch to bare knuckle?
Well, I had spent a year without fighting, and the 3 years before that, I was competing in Russia. I was fighting, the Russians in their hometown, and I was losing these decisions, and it was very close decisions. That some of them were like, two of those decisions, I would say I definitely want to fight. And it wasn't even a split. It was like unanimous. But, you're not going to beat these guys in their hometown in decisions, and when we signed the contract, we know this, And I did have, certain injuries as far as my knee and my toe, and all in the same leg that was literally like, I was boxing MMA fighters for the last 3 years, maybe the last 4 years, 3 to 4 years of me fighting in MMA. I was boxing MMA fighters, man. I like, there's this, I call it the toe of hell, right? Which is a simple surgery you do it. I've never had surgery. I've had one surgery, but like most people that I know that train, I know people that have had 5, and I'm not even exaggerating, 6, 7 major surgeries, and I'm a late bloomer. I started late, right? I started fighting at the age of 20. I started training to fight at the age of 26. I'm 40 today. So like in my entire career, I was like, when I was in my late 30s, for me to do a surgery and be out, whether it's my knee or my toe, or whatever, and let the time, get the best of me, I couldn't do it. And I think it was the biggest mistake I ever made. I didn't have the right people in my corner to tell me, no, you should do it, because I would have gotten rid of the problem, right? So it's like, I was like very limited fighting people. And I started to see my record being hurt, and it's like my legacy is being, diminished, So I say, you know what, that's it, And I didn't verbally retire, because the fire is always going to be inside you to fight and compete. I'm a competitive man from nature, And it just came to that point where like you look at your legacy going down, like, man, I've never had 4 losses in a row, When I saw those 4, when I saw those 4 red lights in Sherlock, I was like, if I'm gonna do this again, I gotta think things over and maybe, take into consideration surgery. And then I thought about, man, after surgery, I'd be like 41 years old, or I'll be 40 years old. And I was thinking about it because I was 39 at the time. So, it was, very down, energy wise and mentally, depression, you name it, man. Everything was going. And once again, every interview, I always say I have to thank Dave Feldman, because it's because of his dream that is allowing me more fight life. When bare knuckle surfaced and I started to see it rise more and more, Jim Adders, being one of my old training partners, and he's banging dudes up, and I'm watching everybody, and I'm like, man, you mean to tell me you don't got to worry about people taking you down and holding you down? And I mean, kicking is not a problem. I love kicking, but I'm predominantly hands. I wanted to be a boxer when I was younger. When I was in Cali, I wanted to be a boxer. Father went to prison, things went a different way. I couldn't find a boxing gym, things went different, But boxing was my first love in combat sports, So then to see, and I did a shitload of street fights growing up in Miami. So to me, it was nothing like new. It was, to me, if anything, it was like, damn, it's like doing full circle, to the beginning, but in a big stage, kind of like when UFC first started and they grabbed the old Ultimate Fighter and they structure it with rules and time and the clothing and everything, So they made it a sport. So Dave Feldman did the same thing with bare knuckle, and he did it very fast, man. This thing's like, what, 3 years now? Maybe 4 years into this, and it's blowing up, man. Everybody wants a piece of it now. And I think quoting Hector Lombard, a training partner of mine, a friend of mine, a former Bellator world champion, quoting him, if you haven't done bare knuckle, you haven't done it all, you know? So it's like, it's perfect timing for me because I think that bare knuckle is going to be the biggest sport in the world at a certain time, you know, point in time. But not only that, is there's going to be a mixture of where the new talent's going to come in and the older dudes like me and the experience. I believe that there has to be a certain level of experience in this game, you know, because you can't come in here just thinking you're going to just brawl it all out, man. And I want to be a big part of taking bare knuckle to that next dimension or that next level. You know, like and people like Palomino, two-time world champion. You know, a fight I love to watch. You know, I love to have because I know that I can finish him. I know that I can knock him out. It won't be a decision like it was with Artem Lobov. I will stalk him until I drop him. You know, I will finish him. You know, so doing that with a high-level boxer like that, me being a natural-born brawler, being cleaned up, because I've been cleaning up at boxing. You know, I've been boxing a lot. And I went 8 months in the year that I was off. I went 8 months looking for a boxing fight. I couldn't land one. You know, who wants to fight a 39-year-old that's 0-0 in boxing, but then you look him up in YouTube and it's knocking everybody out? You know, I had guys 10-0, 15-0, 20-0 saying no to me. You know, and then bare knuckle gave me the opportunity, and we're here now holding both titles. You know,
incredible. So let's talk about the titles themselves then, because obviously been leading to this incredible achievement, obviously winning the bare knuckle, well, you know, both of them. So let's talk about that. I mean, people often talk about the physical aspects of the fight, which is incredible of its own. But I want to talk a little bit about the mental, the emotional side. I mean, when you're in there and you know you've won the world titles and you're on top of the world again, and I know you've done it before in MMA, but talking about the bare knuckle now in this new sport, and as you say, you come full circle with boxing. And simple question being, I mean, what goes through your mind in a moment like that? You know, when you realize you've done it and you know you've got the titles. Because I asked different champions this, and the response is that they come in all shapes and sizes, but it must be an incredible feeling, that goes without saying. But in your own words, champ, when you won the world titles in bare knuckle boxing, what did you feel and what did you think in that moment?
The feeling, if I can best describe it, it was like being born again. You know, it was like I went through a year of depression, pretty much. You know, and you know, it's like you've put so much time of your life into something, and then it's over without you accomplishing what you want to accomplish, you know, or without you getting what you really want out of it, right? And to be able to be in there and earn it again and hear that there's no bigger high than this. There's no bigger high than to hear your name being shouted, you know, and to come out on top against an opponent that had the equal time and preparation as you did, but you came out on top, you know, as a champion once again. So it was like, it came to a point where, like, when I was looking for a boxing fight, I believe it was possible for me to earn a title down the line? Yes, but being realistic at the age that I'm in, I can't even pull a fight. It was almost like impossible in your mind, right? It's possible and it's not. So to be in the square circle and have your hands raised again and be crowned a world champion again, not only to be crowned a world champion again, but I have a big thing with being first on things, right? To be the first ever in history 155-pound bare knuckle world champion, you know, that's for me, that's huge, you know.
Incredible. Yeah, it is. It's on another level. And wow, what an insight, champ. Wow, I'm just taking that in for a minute because that's an amazing description that you gave there. Incredible. So obviously, moving on. Oh, and one quick thing for all of our viewers, you can see the belt there as well, just behind Luis. You can get a little sneak peek. But they probably noticed that, but just bears mentioning. All right, so obviously there's only a couple more things here anyway, but I do want to touch on the growth of bare knuckle boxing because obviously, you know, we've spent a bit of time looking back and everything like that, and that's great. You know, looking forward a little bit now. I mean, you mentioned obviously the explosive growth, and it's only been a few years, you know, and things are just going incredibly well. And even recently, I interviewed Joey Beltran, obviously, and a few people like that, and we were talking about this as well, and how it's going from level to level. You know, what are your thoughts on where bare knuckle boxing will be and your part within it within the next Just a time. So within in the next couple of years, I mean, I can conceivably see you retiring with the belt. I'm going to throw that out there, even if it's controversial for people. But what are your thoughts on the future of BKFC and your part within it? I know that's not a really specific question, but just in your own words, champ, on that one.
Well, look, the way that I can see it is bare knuckle is a very easy to understand sport, right? So it's like the science of boxing worldwide, you know, even in boxing, it's like, you know, it's simple, but it's a lot of rounds to it, you know, some people lose their patience. In MMA, even today, right? Today, which was the biggest sport in the world, growing sport, fastest growing sport in the world, right? I think bare knuckle is today now, because UFC had its time, you know, like MMA had its time, right? It's still huge, but today, you know, worldwide, you'll have people that be like, and they see a little wrestling, grappling going on, they'll be like, ooh, stand them up, you know, and people go impatient, right? Because they want to see action. To the masses, bare knuckle is so easy to understand. Anybody and their mothers and their grandmothers can understand. You know, round one, cut, bleeding, knocked down. And round two, cut. Oh, he's out, he's done. You know, it's so easy to understand. It's so exciting to watch. It's so short and explosive, you know, that it's not only the fastest growing sport, this is going to be the biggest sport in the world. It's the way that I see it. And my part that I want to play in it is to elevate the, how can I put this? To bring up the quality of the fights. You know, like, I'm a natural born brawler. But like I said, I've been cleaning my hands through Eric Castaño Santigre, and now in the last year, I've been working with Dino Spencer from the world's famous Fish Street Gym. And there's some of my two trainers that have been cleaning me up and fixing me up, fixing my boxing. And it's like we've evolved to that brawler boxer. You know, we put it together. So, you know, I'm going to be, and I want to be, a big part of bringing in the higher level fighters. Like more fighting IQ, more skills, more head movement, still aggressive. I don't want to be a Mayweather. I don't want, like, look, in my 3 fights, I've absorbed one jab. One jab. I only have landed one jab in my 3 fights. Okay? And it's because we practice a lot in the defense. You know, this is a game where you don't want to be touched. But I'm not a defensive fighter. I'm looking to finish you. I'm not Mayweather just staying and just touching it. No, I'm trying to kill you. You know, you're trying to hurt me. I'm not letting you touch me, but I'm displaying high-level skill, head movement, combinations, footwork, which is, I think, is something more that I'm bringing into the table for bare knuckle. And I think that the way that I'm fighting, and with the right opponents like Palomino, who I mentioned earlier, I think that we can help elevate, you know, the quality of the fights, you know, and we continue this path.
Incredible message. I mean, you know something, champ, I knew there'd be a good answer there, but that was better again. You're way better again than what I thought. So brilliant. I knew there'd be a good answer, but that was something. And yeah, I mean, the sport is going to be on the next level. I mean, it's already on the next level, but I mean, the next level again in the next few years. Like, you watch the growth of the UFC. This is happening faster. I mean, it's happening. It's brilliant. It's a pleasure to be part of it in any way. So, all right. So the last couple of things then, I mean, effectively wrapping up now. One thing I do want to touch on is, obviously, you know, I know you've got more fights to come. You've still got big things on the horizon. But even if we just take stock of everything you have achieved, you know, in MMA, in bare knuckle, and, you know, all of these things, you're in a prime position to give advice to young athletes. That's what I'm going with this, you know, this next question. So I would like to touch on that, you know, if there's, you know, young fighters watching this, or people who want to be fighting, maybe they're amateurs, maybe they're just starting professional, you know, anything like this. And I guess we can apply, you know, some of these lessons to other life areas as well. You know, absolutely. But even if we hone in on the fighting, I mean, what advice would you give to somebody, or maybe, and I know there's probably more than we can talk about all in one go, okay, but maybe if there's like 2 or 3 like key ingredients, you know, like when you're cooking, there's like key ingredients that got to go in there to be a successful athlete. What would you say to a young fighter who wants to know 2 or 3 like key things, key advice?
As in bare knuckle fighting?
Well,
or just as fighting as a whole?
Fighting in general, I would say, yeah, because I want to encompass the MMA, because you've been so successful in both.
I say, yeah, I would say, look, the very first, if this is going to be an advice to the youth, to the younger, like when I was younger, right? I would have wanted to hear this more, right? Which you don't want to hear this, but I would have wanted to hear this more, is you have to prepare your backup plan. You can't, like any other sport, man. You have many football players that could have been, I don't know what kind of star, basketball players, torn ACL, torn, MCL, and poof, career's over. You have to have a backup plan. You have to have a backup plan. You have to have some sort of savings. You have to have an idea of what if you don't make it to how you want to make it? What if you don't make it to where you want to make it? What if you don't make the money you want to make? What then? Because time flies, man. Next thing you know, you're 30, you're 40, and now you're a 40-year-old that just fought in the past, maybe collected a belt or two, and you have nothing to look forward to, and you're getting older. So I would say, if I have any advices, make sure that you secure your second plan, man, your backup plan. Whether it's college, because there's many fighters that still go to college and fight. You can do that, or saving up for your own business, whatever. But you gotta make sure that you handle your money right. You can't just win a fight and you make a few $1,000s and you think, oh, I'm good, and you're just spending your money, and a lot of people do the same mistake over and over again. So if I can advise on anything, is you have to have a backup plan in this game, man, because life is brutal. Everything can change in one day. Just one little accident can change everything for you, and now you have nothing. And now everything that you put all your eggs in one basket, and that basket's gone. So if I can advise on anything, is if you can back yourself up, then you have nothing to worry, man. You just keep going forward. Other than that, consistency in your training, man. You can't, you're not gonna wake up every day wanting to train. You're not gonna wake up. Look, there's things that I never liked in training. I never liked running. I ended up doing miles and miles of running because I had to, and I learned to like it. I like it now. I enjoy it now, but it took me years, right? And some people don't like cutting off certain foods and stuff and doing certain things. You have to sacrifice. If you don't put in the right sacrifice and you're not consistent with your sacrifices, and you don't have a plan ahead of you to keep improving. Another thing is, fighters will have a fight, and I have a lot of old training partners like this. You have a fight and you're training hardcore, right? Fight's over, you don't train as hard. You don't have a fight. This is the time for you to improve something. If you're not constantly improving your craft, then you're just waiting to get knocked down the line or submitted, right? Whichever one you're gonna go for. So you have to continue to improve yourself. You can't just be like, I'm gonna train hard because I have a fight. Then the fight happens and you're celebrating for 2-3 months like that's it. Like, no, you haven't made it anywhere yet, man. You could have 4 titles, and if you don't keep improving, somebody's gonna kick your ass down the line. So look to improve and be consistent with it and have a second plan, a backup plan.
Powerful advice, champ. It's powerful advice. I mean, like I said, I wanted to ask that because obviously you've been around, you've done it all, and so you're in a prime position for that. And even though we talk about the fight question, we talk about the traditional type questions. I like to throw a few things in the mix with these that are a little bit out of the box. And obviously, it's powerful advice because it benefits people. So I appreciate you sharing that, and I will say I appreciate you being so honest and authentic and sort of open. I know that's the type of person you are, but it's really come over today. So I appreciate it. And I mean, in terms of questions, that's everything. The only thing that I do often do in these interviews, I like to just give people a chance. If there's anything you'd like to say to your supporters, your fans, your people who follow your fights and support you, and I'm talking more about the fans that have supported you for longer, maybe more than the casual. But if there's anything you want to say, I mean, if not, no worries. But if there's anything you want to say, please feel free.
Yeah, I have like a whole load of people that contact me through my fan page on Facebook. It's been I don't know, Facebook has like this whole thing with the password, and it's kind of got me locked off my own thing. So if you were trying to communicate, because I do answer. If you inbox me something like a certain question, I'm gonna answer you. If I can help you with something with information, then I'm gonna help you. I will answer you. It might take me some time to get to you, but I will answer you. And you can follow me mostly on Instagram, at Luis Luis Baboon, Baboon. You can follow me on Instagram. Hit me up, and any questions you have, I can help you with. I will definitely answer. And other than that, just thank you for supporting me. Thank you for looking out for me and always being there supporting me since who knows how long. Some guys are been there, new fans, and just the other day I was telling my girlfriend, I was in the gym and some young kids come to me, they're like, hey, you're the bare knuckle champion, right? You know, and it was like that was like the first time for that, because in Miami, in my city, I'm known for MMA. You know, so it's really cool to hear, you know, another platform now. You know, the next thing. So to all my old fans and my new fans, man, thank you so much for, you know, showing me the love and the support. You know, it definitely helps a lot. And if you haven't followed me yet, please follow me, because it helps a lot more with the pay too. So.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that's a great message, champ. Honestly, I mean, we've covered so much, and to be honest, we've covered more than what I thought, you know, because some of the questions we covered like in one go, and we've gone more into depth on things, and honestly, it's exceeded my expectations. And so I'm super grateful for that, and I'm super grateful for you taking the time out of your day to talk with me and to share your message. So it's appreciated, big time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Blue Limitless, the purest phycocyanin on the planet. This is taking the sports industry by storm, with multiple world champions, Olympians, and many other world-class athletes, all the way down to your regular gym goers and fitness enthusiasts, even amateur athletes, using this product to maximize their potential and move a step closer to the life of their dreams. This product works in a unique way on a cellular level. Unlike any other product on earth, this is created with a patented photobioreactor technology that no one else in the world has access to, breaking down lactic acid and reconverting it into ADP. In other words, breaking the waste and reconverting it into fuel. You can train longer, harder, faster, and considerably outdo your competition. Whether you're just looking for more energy, whether you're a professional athlete or somewhere in between, this product is for you, boosting physical, mental, and emotional health through increased energy and amazing world-class anti-inflammatory effects that cannot be beaten. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.